done for the individual presentations can remain on stage. The rest of you can go off the stage to the left and return to your seats. Okay, and then once each group individual presentation is done for each group, then the next group will follow. So our very first, and your tutors should have a copy of the program, so you should know when you're going up. Our very first presenters today for the 2021 Poetry Slam will be the grade 11-12 class resuscitation. And then when you do your presentations, you can be individual presentations. You can be fairly close to the mic. It's easily adjusted with the clamp handle going up and down. And make sure you're speaking nice and clearly and articulate. Okay, grade 11, grade 12.
Casa Bianca by Felicia Dorothea Hemings. The boy stood on the burning deck, whence all but he had fled. The flame that lit the battle wreck shone round him o'er the dead.
Yet beautiful and bright he stood, as born to rule the storm, a creature of heroic blood, a proud though childlike form.
The flames rolled on, he would not go without his father's word. That father faint in death below, his voice no longer heard.
He called aloud, "Say, Father, say, that yet my task be done." He knew not that the chieftain lay, unconscious of his son.
"Speak, Father," once again he cried, "if I may yet be gone." And but the booming shots replied, and fast the flames rolled on.
Upon his brow he felt their breath, and in his waving hair, and looked from that lone post of death in still yet brave despair.
And shouted but once more aloud, "My father, must I stay? While o'er him fast, through sail and shroud, the reading fires in the day." They wrapped the ship in splendor wild, and caught the flag on high, and streamed the gallant child above, like banners in the sky.
There came a burst of thunder sound. The boy, oh, where was he? Asked of the winds that far aloud, with fragrance strewed the sea.
With mast and helm and pennon fair, that well had borne their part. But the noblest thing which perished there was that young faithful heart.
Forgiveness by T.H. Allen. How oft shall I pardon my brother? Was asked of Jesus when here among men. Is 7 times often enough to forgive, or should I forgive him again? And Jesus made answer, I say unto thee that just 7 times will not do, but 7 times 70 answered his plea, forgive him as I forgave you. Oh, list to the Lord's loving voice from the cross when he hung there in agony too. Father, forgive them such mercy and grace. Forgive, they know not what they do. In the midst of their buffeting, scorning, and jeers, rejected, despised, and alone, this marvelous love of our Savior appears. Forgive them the wrong they have done. Oh, such love and forgiveness unspeakable is, it can never be measured or known, and we marvel at this great example of his, where such love unto sinners was shown. Oh, 7 times 70 could never retell the debt that the Lord forgave me. When he rescued my soul from the portals of hell, bought my pardon on Calvary's tree. My sins, which outnumbered the sands of the sea, in his body he willingly bore. The vast debt is canceled. My conscience is free. They're remembered by him nevermore. He freely forgave all. He's blotted them out there, cast in the depths of the sea. His word hath removed every fear, every doubt, and peace he has given to me. If we who have tasted such limitless grace this Spirit could show to another, remembering Jesus who died in our place and willingly pardoned our brother, 'twould glorify God in our rock here below. It's a thing he desires of us to try in some measure this Spirit to show. Forgive them as Christ forgave you.
The Revolutionary Rising by Thomas Buchanan Reed. Out of the north the wild moose came, far flashing on his wings of flame, swift as the boreal light which flies at midnight through the startled skies. And there was tumult in the air, the fife's shrill note, the drum's loud beat, and through the wide land everywhere, the answering tread of hurrying feet. While the first oath of freedom's gun came on the blast from Lexington, and Concord roused, no longer tame, forgot her old baptismal name, made bare her patriot arm of power, and swelled the discord of the hour. Within its shade of elm and oak, the church of Berkeley Manor stood. Their Sunday found the rural folk, and some esteemed of gentle blood. In vain their feet with loitering tread pass mid the graves where rank is not. All could not read the lesson taught in that republic of the dead. How sweet the hour of Sabbath talk, the veil with peace and sunshine fall, where all the happy people walk, decked in the homespun flaxen wool, where youth's gay hats with blossoms bloom, and every maid with simple art wears on her breast, like her own heart, a bud whose depths are all perfume, and every garment's gentle stir is breathing rose and lavender. The pastor came, his snowy locks held his brow with thoughts and care, and calmly, as shepherds lead their flocks, he led into the house of prayer. Then soon he rose. The prayer was strong. The psalm was warrior David's song. The text a few short words of might. The Lord of hosts shall arm the right. He spoke of wrongs too long endured, of sacred rights to be secured. Then from his patriot tongue aflame, the startling words for freedom came. The stirring sentences he spake compelled the heart to glow or quake. And rising on his theme's broad wing, and grasping in his nervous hand the imaginary battle brand, in face of death he dared to fling defiance to a tyrant's king. Even as he spoke, his frame, renewed in eloquence of attitude, rose as it seemed a shoulder higher, then swept its kindling glance of fire from startled pew to breathless choir. When suddenly, his mantle wide, his hands impatient, flung aside, and lo, he met their wondering eyes, complete in all the warrior's guise. A moment, there was awful pause. When Berkeley cried, "Cease, traitor, cease! God's temple is the house of peace." The other shouted, "Nay, not so! When God is with our righteous cause, his holiest places then are ours. His temples, our forts and towers that frown upon the tyrant foe. In this, the dawn of freedom's day, there's a time to fight and pray." And now before the open door, the warrior priests had ordered so. The enlisting trumpet's sudden roar rang through the chapel, o'er and o'er. Its long reverberating blow, so loud and clear, it seemed the ear of dusty death must wake and hear. And there the startling drum and fife fired the living with fiercer life, while overhead with wild increase, forgetting its ancient toll of peace, the great spell swung as ne'er before. It seemed as it would never cease, and every word its ardor flung from off its jubilant iron tongue was war! 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 Who dares? This is the patriot's cry, as striding from the desk he came. Come out with me in freedom's name, for her to live, for her to die. 100 hands flung up reply. 100 voices answered, I.
When you are old and gray and full of sleep, and nodding by the fire, take down this book and slowly read, and dream of the soft look your eyes had once, and of their shadows deep. How many loved your moments of glad grace, and loved your beauty with love false or true? But one man loved the pilgrim's soul in you, and loved the sorrows of your changing face. And bending down beside the glowing bars, murmur a little sadly how love fled, and paced upon the mountains overhead, and hid his face amid a crowd of stars.
Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. "Only this, and nothing more."
Distinctly I remember, it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember rocked its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore, nameless here forevermore.
And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, so that now to still the beating of my heart I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door, some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. This is and nothing more."
Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. "Sir," said I, "or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore. But the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping, tapping at my chamber door, that I scarcely sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door, darkness there and nothing more.
Deep into the darkness peering, long I stood there, wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whisper word, Lenore. This I whispered, and echo murmured back the word, Lenore. Merely this, and nothing more.
Back into the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning. Soon again I heard a tapping, somewhat louder than before. Surely, said I, surely there is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what thereat is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind, and nothing more.
Open here I flung the shutter, when, with many a flirt and flutter, in there stepped the stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but by need of lord or lady, perched above my chamber door, perched upon a bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more. Then, is his ebony bird beguiling my sad fancy in smiling, by the great concerned decorum of the countenance it wore. Thou thy crest be short and shaven, thou, I said, art shrimp of craven, ghastly grim age raven, wandering from the night of shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is, on the night's Plutonian shore. Quoth the raven, nevermore.
Much I marvel this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevance bore. For we cannot help agree that no living human being ever yet was blessed to sing, bird above his chamber door, bird or beast above his sculptured bust above his chamber door, with such name as nevermore.
But the raven, sitting lonely on the placid bust, spoke only that one word, as if the soul in that one word he did outpour. Nothing farther than he uttered, not a feather than he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, other friends have flown before. On the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before. Then the bird said, nevermore.
Startled at the stillness broken, by reply so aptly spoken. Doubtless, said I, what it utters is its only stock and store, caught from some happy master, whom a merciful disaster followed faster, till his songs one burden bore, till the dirges of his hope that melancholy burden bore, of never, nevermore.
But the raven, still beguiling, all my fancy into smiling, straight I wheeled the cushioned seat in front of bird and bust and door. Then, upon the velvet sinking, I betook myself to linking fancy unto fancy, thinking what this ominous bird adored, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore meant in croaking. Never.
This I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing, to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burned into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining, on the cushion's velvet lining, that the lamplight floated o'er, but whose velvet violet lining, with the lamplight floating o'er, she shall press, nevermore. Then, methought, the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen censer, swung by seraphim whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. Wretch, I cried, thy God hath lent thee, by these angels he hath sent thee, respite and repent from thy memories of Lenore. Walk, and kind repent, and forget this lost Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore.
Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, whether tempter sent, or whether tempest tossed thee here ashore. Desolate, yet all undaunted, on this desert land enchanted, on this home I far haunted, tell me truly, I implore, is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore. Quoth the raven, nevermore.
Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, by that heaven that bends above us, by that God we both adore. Tells his soul with sorrow laden, if within the distant Aden, it shall clasp the sainted maiden, whom the angels name Lenore. Clasp a rare and radiant maiden, whom the angels name Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore.
Be that word, our sign of parting, bird our feet, I shrieked upstarting. Get thee back into the tempest of the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plume as a token of the lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit the bust above my door. Take thy beat from out my heart and take thy form from off my door. Quoth the raven, nevermore. And the raven never flitted, still is sitting on the palace bust of Pallas just above my chamber door. And his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming, and the lamp-like owners dreaming throws his shadow on the floor, and my soul out that shadow lies floating on the floor. Shall be lifted nevermore.
Banging on the Rhine by Caroline Elizabeth Sarah Norton. A soldier of the Legion lay dying in Algiers. There was lack of woman's nursing, there was dearth of woman's tears. But a comrade stood beside him while his lifeblood ebbed away, and bent with pitying glances to hear what he might say. And the dying soldier faltered as he took the comrade's hand. He said, I never more shall see my own, my native land. Take a message and a token to some distant friends of mine. For I was born at Bingen on the Rhine. Tell my brothers and companions when they meet and crowd around, to hear my mournful story in the pleasant vineyard crown, that we fought the battle bravely, and when the day was done, full many corpses lay ghastly pale beneath the setting sun, and amid the dead and dying were some grown old in wars, the death wound on their gallant breasts, the last of many scars. And some were young, and suddenly beheld life's worn decline. And one had come from Bingen, at Bingen on the Rhine. Tell my mother that her other son shall comfort her old age, for I was still a true bird that thought his home a cage. For my father was a soldier, and even as a child, my heart beat forth to hear him tell of struggles fierce and wild. And when he died, he left us to divide his scanty hoard. I let them take whate'er they would, but kept my father's sword. And with boyish love, I hung it where the bright light used to shine, on the cottage wall at Bingen, calm Bingen on the Rhine. Tell my sister not to weep for me, and sob with drooping head, when the troops come marching home again with glad and gallant tread. But to look upon them proudly, with calm and steadfast eye, for her brother was a soldier too, and not afraid to die. And if a comrade seek her love, I ask her in my name, to listen to him kindly, without regret or shame. And hang the old sword in its place, my father's sword, and mine, for honor of old Bingen, dear Bingen on the Rhine. There's another, not a sister, in the happy days gone by. You'd have known her by the merriment that sparkled in her eye, too innocent for coquetry, too fond for idle scorning. O friend, I fear the lightest heart makes sometimes heavy scorn. Tell her, the last night of my life, for ere the moon be risen, my body will be out of pain, my soul will be out of prison. I dreamed I stood with her and saw the yellow sunlight shine on the vine-clad hills of Bingen, sweet Bingen on the Rhine. I saw the blue Rhine sweep along. I saw, I heard, or seemed to hear the German songs we used to sing in chorus, sweet and clear, and down the pleasant river and up the slanted hill. The echoing chorus sounded through the evening, calm and still, and her glad blue eyes were on me as we passed with friendly talk down many a path beloved of yore and well-remembered walk. And her little hand lay lightly, confiding me mine, but we meet no more at Bingen. Love Bingen on the Rhine. His trembling voice grew faint and hoarse. His grasp was childish weak. His eyes put on a dying look. He sighed and ceased to speak. His comrade bent to lift him, but the spark of life had fled. The soldier of the legion in a foreign land was dead. And the soft moon rose up slowly, and calmly she looked down on the red sand of the battlefield with bloody corpses strewn. Yes, calmly on that dreadful scene, her pale light seemed to shine, as it shone on distant Bingen, fair Bingen on the Rhine.
Paul Revere's Ride by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Listen, my children, and you shall hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere on the 18th of April in 75. Hardly a man is now alive who remembers that famous day and year. He said to his friend, if the British march by land or by sea from the town tonight, hang a lantern aloft in the belfry arch of the North Church Tower as a signal light, one if by land and two if by sea, and I on the opposite shore will be ready to rise and spread the alarm to every Middlesex village and farm for the country folk to be up and to arm. Then he said, good night, and with muffled oar, silently rowed to the Charleston shore, just as the moon rose over the bay, where, swinging wide at her moorings lay, the Somerset, British man-of-war, a phantom ship with each mast and spar, across the moon like a prison bar, and a huge black hulk that was magnified by its own reflection in the tower. Meanwhile, his friend, through alley and street, wanders and watches with eager ears, till in the silence around him he hears the muster of men at the barrack door, the sound of arms, the tramp of feet, the measured tread of the grenadiers, marching down to their boats from the shore. Then he climbed to the tower of the old North Church, up the wooden stairs with stealthy tread to the belfry chamber overhead, and startled the pigeons from their perch on the somber rafters that round him made masses and moving shapes of shape. By the trembling ladder, steep and tall, to the highest window in the wall, where he paused to listen and look down, a moment on the roofs of the town, and the moonlight flowing over all. Beneath in the churchyard lay the dead, in their night encampment on the hill, wrapped in silence so deep and still that he could hear, like a sentinel's tread, the watchful night wind as it went, creeping along from tent to tent, and seeming to whisper, All is well. Only a moment he feels the spell of the place and the hour and the secret dread of the lonely belfry and the dead. For suddenly all his thoughts are bent on shadowy something far away, where the river widens to meet the bay, a line of black that bends and floats on the rising tide like a bridge of boats. Meanwhile, impatient to mount and ride, booted and spurred with a heavy stride, on the opposite shore walked Paul Revere. Now he patted his horse's side, now gazed at the landscape far and near, then impetuous stamped the earth, and turned and tightened his saddle girth, but mostly watched with eager search the belfry tower of the Old North Church, as it rose above the graves on the hill, lonely and spectral and somber and still. And lo, as he looks on the belfry's height, a glimmer, then a gleam of light. He springs to the saddle, the bridle he turns, but lingers and gazes, till full on his sight a second lamp in the belfry burns. A hurry of hooves in the village street, a shape in the moonlight, a bulk in the dark, and beneath through the pebbles, in passing, a spark, struck out by that steed flying fearless and fleet. That was all, and yet, through the gloom and the light, the fate of a nation was riding that night. And the spark struck out by the steed in its flight kindled the land into flame with its heat. He has left the village and mounted the deep, and beneath it, tranquil and broad and deep, is the mystic, meeting the ocean tides, and under the advers that skirt its edge, now soft in sand, now loud on the ledge, is heard the tramp of his steed as he rides. It was 12 by the village clock when he crossed the bridge into Medford town, heard the crowing of the cock, the barking of the farmer's dog, and felt the damp of the river fog that rises as the sun goes down. It was 1 by the village clock when he gallops into Lexington. He saw the gilded weathercock swim in the moonlight as he passed, and the meeting house windows, blank and bare, gaze at him with a spectral glare, as if they already stood aghast at the bloody work they would look upon. It was 2 by the village clock when he came to the bridge in Concord town. He heard the bleating of the flock, the twitter of the birds among the trees, and felt the breath of the morning breeze blowing over meadows brown. And one was safe and asleep in his bed, who at the bridge would be first to fall, who that day would be lying dead, pierced by a British musket ball. You know the rest. In the books you have read how the British regulars fired and fled, how the farmers gave them ball for ball from behind each fence and farmyard wall, chasing the redcoats down the lane, then crossing the fields to emerge again under the trees at the turn of the road, only pausing to fire and load. So through the night rode Paul Revere, and so through the night went his cry of alarm to every Middlesex village and farm, a cry of defiance and not of fear, a voice in the darkness, a knock at the door, and a word that shall echo forevermore. For born on the night wind of the past, through all our history, to the last, in the time of darkness and peril and need, people will awaken and listen to hear the hurrying hoofbeats of that steed and the midnight message of Paul Revere.
The Rum-Tum Tugger by T.S. Eliot. The Rum-Tum Tugger is a curious cat. If you offer him pheasant, he would rather have grouse. If you put him in a house, he would much prefer a flat. If you put him in a flat, he would rather have a house. If you set him on a mouse, then he only wants a rat. If you set him on a rat, then he'd rather choose a mouse. Yes, the Rum-Tum Tugger is a curious cat, and there is not any use for you to shout it, for me to shout it, for he will do as he do, and there's no doing anything about it. The Rum-Tum Tugger Rum-Tum Tugger is a terrible bore. When you let him in, then he wants to be out. He's always on the wrong side of every door, and as soon as he's at home, he'd like to get about. He likes to lie down in the bureau drawer, but he makes such a fuss if he can't get out. Yes, the Rum-Tum Tugger is a curious cat, and there isn't any use for you to doubt it, for he will do as we do, and there doesn't. And there isn't. There isn't anything for you to do about it. Rum-Tum Tugger is a curious beast. His disobliging ways are a matter of habit. If you offer him fish, then he only wants a feast. If there isn't any fish, then he won't eat rabbit. If you offer him cream, then he sniffs and he sneers. for one only likes what he finds for himself. So catch him in it right up to his ears and put it away in the larder shelf. The Rum-Tum Tugger is artful and knowing. Rum-Tum Tugger doesn't care for a cuddle, but you leap on your lap in the middle of your sawing, for just like he enjoys a corporal muddle. Yes, the Rum-Tum Tugger is a curious cat, and there isn't any use for me to spout it, for he will do, as he do, and there's no doing anything about it.
Foster child of silence and slow time, sylvan historian who canst thus express a flowery tale more sweetly than our rhyme. What leaf-fringed legend haunts not thy shape, of deities or mortals or both, in Tempe or the dales of Arden? What men or gods are these? What maidens loath, what mad pursuit, what struggle to escape, what pipes and timbrels, what wild ecstasy. Heard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter. Therefore ye soft pipes play on, not to the sensual ear, but more endeared. Pipe to the spirit ditties of no tone. Fair youth, beneath the trees, thou canst not leave thy song, nor ever can those trees be bare. Bold lover, never, never canst thou kiss. Though winning near the goal yet, do not grieve, she cannot fade, though thou hast not thy bliss. Forever wilt thou love, and she be fair. Ah, happy, happy boughs, that cannot shed your leaves, nor ever bid the spring adieu. A happy melodist, unwearied, forever piping songs forever new. More happy love, more happy, happy love. Forever worn and still to be enjoyed. Forever panting, forever one, forever young. All breathing human passion far above, that leaves a heart high, sorrowful, and cloyed. A burning forehead, a parching tongue. Who are these coming to the sacrifice? To what green altar a mysterious priest? Leadest thou that heifer, lone at the skies, and all the silken flanks with garlands dressed? What little town by river or seashore, or mountain built with peaceful citadel, is emptied of this folk, this pious morn, and little town thy streets forevermore will silent be, not a soul to tell why thou art desolate, can e'er return. O Attic shape, fair attitude, with breed of marble men and maidens overwrought, with forest branches and trodden weed. Thou, silent form, dost tease us out of thought, as doth eternity, cold pastoral. When old age shall this generation waste, thou shalt remain in the midst of other woe, than ours, a friend to man, to whom thou sayest, beauty is truth, truth beauty, that is all ye know on earth, and all ye need to know. A Cremation of Sam Mcgee by Robert W. Service. There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold. The Arctic trails have their secret tales of naked blood run cold. The northern lights have seen queer sights, the queerest they ever did see. Was that night on the marge of Lake LaBarge, I cremated Sam Mcgee. Now Sam Mcgee was from Tennessee, where the cotton blooms and blows, while he left his home in the south to roam around the pole, God only knows. He was always cold, the land of gold seemed to hold him like a spell, though he'd often say in his homely way that he'd sooner live in hell. On a Christmas day, we were mushing away over the Donson Trail. Talk of your cold to the parka's fold, stab with a driven nail. For eyes had closed and lashes froze, till sometimes we couldn't see. It wasn't much fun, the only one to whimper was Sam Mcgee. And that very night, as we lay packed tight in our robes beneath the snow, and the dogs are fed and stars overhead dancing heel and toe, he turned to me and, "Cat," says he, "I'll cash in this trip, I guess. And if I do, a masking man won't refuse my last request." Well, he seemed so low that I couldn't say no. Then he says with sort of moan, "It's the cursed cold that's got right hold, plumb chill, clean to the bone. Yet tain't he dead is not awful dread of icy gray that pains. So I want you to swear that foul fairy will cremate my last remains." A pal's last need is a thing to heed, so I swore I would not fail. And we started on a streak of dawn, but God, how it gas and pale. He crouched the sleigh and raved all day of his home in Tennessee, and before nightfall, the corpse was all that was left of Sam Mcgee. There wasn't a breath in that land of death, and I hurried horror-driven, with the corpse half hid that I couldn't get rid because of the promise given. It was lashed aside, it seemed to say, "You may tax your brawn and brains, but you promised true, and it's up to you to cremate those last remains." Now, a promise made is a debt unpaid, and the trail has its own stern code. In the days to come, but my lips were dumb, in my heart, how I cursed that load. In the long, long night by the lone firelight, while the huskies round the ring howled out their woes to the homeless snows, oh God, how I loathed the thing. And every day that quiet clay seemed to heavy and heavier grow. And on I went, the dogs were spent, and the grub was getting low. The trail was bad, and I felt half mad, but I swore I would not give in. And I'd often sing to the hateful thing, and it hearkened with a grin. Till I came to the marge of Lake Labarge, and a derelict there lay. It was jammed in the ice, but I saw in a trace it was called the Alice May. And I looked at it, and I thought of it, and I looked at my frozen chum. "Then here," said I, with a sudden cry, "is my crematorium." Some planks I tore from the cabin floor, and I lit the boiler fire. Some coal I found was lying around, and I heaped the fuel higher. The flames just soared, the furnace roared, such a blaze you seldom see. And I burrowed a hole in the glowing coal, and I stuffed in Sam Mcgee. Then I made a hike, for I didn't like to hear him sizzle so. And the heavens scowled, and the huskies howled, and the wind began to blow. It was icy cold, and the hot sweat rolled down my cheeks, and I don't know why. And the greasy smoke in an inky cloak went streaking down the sky. I do not know how long the snow I wrestled with grisly fear, but the stars came out, and they danced about ere again I ventured near. I was sick with dread, but I bravely said, "I'll just take a peep inside. I guess he's cooked." And it's time I looked, and the door I opened wide. And there sat Sam, looking cool and calm in the heart of the furnace roar. He wore a smile you could see a mile, and he said, "Please close that door. It's fine in here, but I greatly fear you'll let in the cold and storm. Since I left Plumtree down in Tennessee, it's the first time I've been warm." There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold. The Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. The northern lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake Labarge. I cremated Sam Mcgee.
We Are Seven by William Wordsworth. A simple child lightly draws its breath. It feels its life in every limb. What should it know of death? I met a little cottage girl. She was 8 years old, she said. Her hair was thick with many a curl that clustered round her head. She had a rustic woodland air, and she was wildly clad. Her eyes were fair and very fair, and her beauty made me glad. "Sisters and brothers, little maid, how many may you be?"
How many? 7 in all, she said, and wondering looked at me. And where are they, I pray you tell? She answered, 7 are we, and 2 of us a Conway dwell, and 2 are gone to sea, and 2 in the churchyard lie, my sister and my brother. And in the churchyard cottage I dwell near them with my mother. You say, 2 are a Conway dwell, and 2 are gone to sea, yet ye are 7, I pray you tell, sweet little maid, how may this be? 7 boys and girls are we, said the little maid. The little maid replied, 12 7 boys and girls are we. 2 in the churchyard, the little maid replied, 2 in the churchyard lie, beneath the churchyard tree. You run about, my little maid, your limbs they are alive. If 2 in the churchyard laid, then ye are only 5. Their graves are green, they may be seen, the little maid replied. 12 steps or more from my mother's door, and they are side by side. My stockings there I often knit, my kerchiefs there I hem, and upon the ground I sit, and sing a song to them. And often after sunset, sir, when it is light and fair, I take my little porringer, and eat my supper there. The first that died was Sister Jane. In bed she mourning lay, till God released her of her pain, and then she went away. So in the churchyard she was laid, when the grass was dry. Together we played around her grave, my brother John and I. And when the ground was white with snow, I could run and slide. My brother John was forced to go. Now he lies by your side. How many are you then, said I, if 2 are in heaven? Quick was the little maid's reply. Oh, master, we are 7. But they're dead, those 2 are dead. Their spirits are in heaven. 'Twas throwing words away. But the little maid would have her will, and said, Nay, we are 7.
Anabel Lee by Edgar Allan Poe. It was many and many a year ago, in this kingdom by the sea, that a maiden there lived, whom you may know by the name of Anabel Lee. And this maiden, she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. I was a child and she was a child in this kingdom by the sea, but we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Anabel Lee, with the love that the winged seraphs of heaven coveted her and me. And this was the reason that, many a year ago, in this kingdom by the sea, a wind blew out of the cloud, chilling my beautiful Anabel Lee, so that her high-born kinsman came and bore her away from me, to shut her up in a sepulchre in this kingdom by the sea. The angels, not half so happy in heaven, went envying her and me. Yes, this was the reason, as all men know, in this kingdom by the sea, that a wind blew out of the cloud by night, chilling and killing my Anabel Lee. But our love, it was stronger by far than the love of those who are older than we, of many far wiser than we. And neither the angels in heaven above nor the demons down under the sea can ever dissever my soul from the soul of the beautiful Anabel Lee. For the moon never beams without bringing me dreams of the beautiful Anabel Lee. And the stars never rise, but I feel the bright eyes of the beautiful Anabel Lee. And so, all the night tide, I lie down by the side of my darling, my life and my bride, in her sepulchre there by the sea, in her tomb by the surrounding sea.
Psalm 119.
Blessed are those whose way is blameless, who walk in the law of the Lord. Blessed are those who keep his testimonies, who seek him with their whole heart, who also do no wrong, but walk in his ways. You have commanded your precepts to be kept diligently. Oh, that my ways may be steadfast in keeping your statutes.
How can the young keep his way without fault? Only by observing your word. With my whole heart I seek you. Do not let me stray from your commandments. In my heart I treasure your promise, that I may not sin against you. Blessed are you, O Lord. Teach me your statutes. With my lips I recite all the judgments you have spoken. I find joy in the way of your testimonies, more than in all riches. I will ponder your precepts and consider your paths. I will take delight in your statutes. I will never forget your word.
Deal bountifully with your servant, that I may live and keep your word. Open my eyes that I may behold the wondrous things out of your law. I am a sojourner on the earth. Hide not your commandments from me. My soul is consumed with longing for your rules at all times. You rebuke the insolent, accursed, who wander from your commandments. Take from me scorn and contempt, for I have kept your testimonies. Even though princes sit plotting against me, your servant will meditate on your statutes. Your testimonies are my delight. They are my counselors.
My soul clings to the dust. Give me life according to your word. When I told of my ways, you answered me. Teach me your statutes. Make me understand the way of your precepts, and I will meditate on your wondrous works. My soul melts away for sorrow. Strengthen me according to your word. Put false ways far from me, and graciously teach me your law. For I have chosen the way of faithfulness. I set your rules before me. I cling to your testimonies, O Lord. Let me not be put to shame. I will run in the way of your commandments, when you enlarge my heart.
Teach me, O Lord, your statutes, and I will keep them to the end. Give me understanding, that I may keep your law and observe it with my whole heart. Lead me in the path of your commandments, for I delight in it. Incline my heart to your testimonies, and not to selfish gain. Turn my eyes from looking at worthless things, and give me life in your ways. Confirm to your servant your promise, that you may be feared. Turn away the reproach that I dread, for your rules are good. Behold, I long for your precepts. In your righteousness give me life.
Let your steadfast love come to me, O Lord, your salvation according to your promise. Then shall I have an answer for him who taunts me, for I trust in your word. And take not the word of truth utterly out of my mouth, for my hope is in your rules. I will keep your law continually forever and ever, and I will walk in a wide place, for I have sought your precepts. I will also speak of your testimonies before kings, and shall not be put to shame. For I
Remember your word to your servant, in which you made me hope. This is my comfort in my affliction, that your promise gives me life. The insolent utterly deride me, but I do not turn away from your law. Hot indignation seizes me because of the wicked who forsake your law. Your statutes are my songs in the house of my sojourn. I remember your name in the night, O Lord, and keep your law.
The Lord is my portion, and promise to keep your words. I entreat your favor with all my heart. Be gracious to me according to your promise. When I think on my ways, I turn my feet to your testimonies. I hasten and do not delay,
have dealt well with your servant, O Lord, according to your word. Teach me good judgment and knowledge, for I believe in your commandments. Before I was afflicted, I went astray, but now I keep your word. You are good and do good, teaching me your statutes. The insolent smear me with lies, but with my whole heart I keep your precepts. Their heart is unfeeling like fat, but I delight in your law. It is good for me that I was afflicted, that I might learn your statutes. The law of your mouth is better to me than thousands of gold and silver pieces.
Your hands have made and fashioned me. Give me understanding, that I may learn your commandments. Those who fear you shall see me and rejoice, for I have hoped in your word. I know, O Lord, that your rules are righteous, and that in faithfulness you have afflicted me. Let your steadfast love comfort me, according to your promise to your servant. Let your mercy come to me, that I may live, for your law is my delight. Let the insolent be put to shame, for they have wronged me with falsehood. As for me, I will meditate on your precepts. Let those who fear you come to me, that they may know your testimonies. Let my heart be blameless in your statutes, that I may not be put to shame.
My soul longs for your salvation. I hope in your word. My eyes long for your promise. I ask, when will you comfort me? For I have become like a wineskin in the smoke, yet I have not forgotten your statutes. The insolent have dug pitfalls for me, but they do not live according to your law. All your commandments are sure. They persecute me with falsehood. Help me. They have almost made an end of me on earth, but I have not forsaken your precepts. In your steadfast love, give me life, that I may keep the testimonies of your mouth.
A Psalm of Life by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. What the heart of the young man said to the psalmist. Tell me not in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream, for the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not as they seem. Life is real, life is earnest, and the grave is not its goal. Dust thou art to dust returneth, was not spoken of the soul. Not enjoyment and not sorrow is our destined end or way, but to act that each tomorrow finds us farther than today. Art is long and time is fleeting, and our hearts, though stout and brave, still like muffled drums are beating funeral marches to the grave. In the world's broad field of battle, in the bivouac of life, be not like dumb, driven cattle. Be a hero in the strife. Trust no future, however pleasant. Let the dead past bury its dead. Act in the living present, heart within and God overhead. Lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing, leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. Footprints that perhaps another, sailing o'er life's solemn main, a forlorn and shipwrecked brother, seeing shall take heart again. Let us then be up and doing, with the heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait.
The Cremation of Sam Mcgee
march service. There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold, and the Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. The northern lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was the night on the marge of Lake Labarge. I cremated Sam Mcgee. Now Sam Mcgee was from Tennessee, where the cotton blooms and blows. Why he left his home in the south to roam round the pole, God only knows. He was always cold, but the land of gold seemed to hold him like a spell, though he'd often say in his homely way that he'd sooner live in hell. On a Christmas day, we were mushing our way over the Dawson Trail. Talk if you're cold through the parka's fold, it stabbed like a driven nail. If our eyes we'd close, then the lashes froze, till sometimes we couldn't see. It wasn't much fun, but the only one to whimper was Sam Mcgee. That very night, as we lay packed tight in our robes beneath the snow, and the dogs were fed, and the stars o'erhead were dancing, heel and toe, he turns to me, and Cap, says he, I'll cash in this trip, I guess. And if I do, I'm asking that you won't refuse my last request. Well, he seemed so low that I couldn't say no, and he says with a sort of moan, it's the cursed cold, it's got right hold, till I'm chilled clean through to the bone. Yet it ain't being dead, it's the awful dread of the icy grave that pains. So I want you to swear that foul or fair, you'll cremate my last remains. Now a pal's last need is a thing to heed, so I swore I would not fail. And we started on at the streak of dawn, but God, he looked ghastly pale. He crouched on the sleigh, and he raved all day of his home in Tennessee. And before nightfall, a corpse was all that was left of Sam Mcgee. There wasn't a breath in that land of death, and I hurried, horror-driven, with a corpse half hid that I couldn't get rid because of a promise given. It was lashed to the sleigh, and it seemed to say, you may tax your brawn and brains, but you promise true, and it's up to you to cremate those last remains. Now a promise made is a debt unpaid, and the trail has its own stern code. In the days to come, though my lips were dumb, in my heart how I cursed that load. In the long, long night, by the lone firelight, with the huskies round in a ring, howled out their woes to the homeless snows. Oh God, how I loathed the thing. And every day the quiet clay seemed to heavy and heavier grow. And on I went, though the dogs were spent, and the grub was getting low. The trail was bad, and I felt half mad, but I swore I would not give in. And I'd often sing to the hateful thing, and it hearkened with a grin. Till I came to the marge of Lake Labarge, and a derelict there lay. It was jammed in the ice, but I saw in a trice it was called the Alice May. And I looked at it, and I thought a bit, and I looked at my frozen chum. Then here, said I, with a sudden cry, is my crematorium. Some planks I tore from the cabin floor, and I lit the boiler fire. Some coal I found that was lying around, and I heaped the fuel higher. The flames just soared, and the furnace roared, such a blaze you seldom see. And I burrowed a hole in the glowing coal, and I stuffed in Sam Mcgee. Then I made a hike, for I didn't like to hear him sizzle so. And the heavens scowled and the huskies howled, and the wind began to blow. It was icy cold, but the hot sweat rolled down my cheeks, I don't know why. And the greasy smoke in an inky cloak went streaking down the sky. I do not know how long in the snow I wrestled with grisly fear, but the stars came out and they danced about, ere again I ventured near. I was sick with dread, but I bravely said, I'll just take a peep inside. I guess he's cooked, and it's time I looked. Then the door I opened wide. And there sat Sam, looking cool and calm, in the heart of the furnace roar. And he wore a smile you could see a mile, and he said, please close that door. It's fine in here, but I greatly fear you'll let in the cold and storm. Since I left Plum Tree down in Tennessee, it's the first time I've been warm. There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold, and the Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. The northern lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was the night on the marge of Lake Labarge I cremated Sam Mcgee.
The Bells by Edgar Allan Poe. Hear the sledges with the bells, silver bells. What a world of merriment their melody foretells! How they tinkle, tinkle, tinkle in the icy air of night, while the stars that oversprinkle all the heavens seem to twinkle with a crystalline delight. Keeping time, time, time in a sort of runic rhyme to the tintinnabulation that so musically wells from the bells, 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 from the jingling and the tinkling of the bells. Hear the mellow wedding bells, golden bells. What a world of happiness their harmony foretells. Through the balmy air of night, how they ring out their delight. From the molten golden notes, and all in tune, what a liquid ditty floats to the turtle dove that listens while she gloats on the moon. Oh, from out the sounding cells, what a gush of euphony voluminously wells. How it swells, how it dwells on the future, how it tells of the rapture that impels to the swinging and the ringing of the bells, 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 of the bells, 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 to the rhyming and the chiming of the bells. Hear the loud alarum bells, brazen bells. What tale of terror now their turbulency tells? In the startled ear of night, how they scream out their affright. Too much horrified to speak, they can only shriek, shriek out of tune, in a clamorous appealing to the mercy of the fire, in a mad expostulation with the death and frantic fire, leaping higher, 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 with a desperate desire and a resolute endeavor. Now to sit, or never, by the side of the pale-faced moon. Oh, the bells, bells, bells! What a tale their terror tells of despair! How they clang and clash and roar! What a horror they outpour in the bosom of the palpitating air! Yet the ear, it fully knows, by the twanging and the clanging, how the danger ebbs and flows. Yes, the ear distinctly tells in the jangling and the wrangling how the danger sinks and swells, by the sinking or the swelling in the anger of the bells, of the bells, of the bells, 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 in the clamor and the clangor of the bells. Hear the tolling of the bells, iron bells. What a world of solemn thought their monody compels. In the silence of the night, how we shiver with affright at the melancholy meaning of the tone. For every sound that floats from the rust within their throats is a groan. And the people, the people, they that dwell up in the steeple, all alone, and who, tolling, tolling, tolling in that muffled monotone, feel a glory in so rolling on the human heart a stone. They are neither man nor woman, they are neither brute nor human, they are ghouls, and their king it is who tolls, and he rolls, 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 rolls a paean from the bells, and his merry bosom swells with the paean from the bells, and he dances and he yells, keeping time, time, time in a sort of runic rhyme to the paean of the bells, of the bells. Keeping time, time, time in a sort of runic rhyme to the throbbing of the bells, 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 to the sobbing of the bells. Keeping time, time, time as he knells, knells, knells in a happy runic rhyme to the rolling of the bells, 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 to the tolling of the bells, 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 to the moaning and the groaning of the bells.
Lady of Shalott by Alfred Lord Tennyson. On either side the river lie long fields of barley and of rye that clothe the wold and meet the sky, and through the field the road runs by to many-towered Camelot. And up and down the people go, gazing where the lilies blow, round an island there below, the island of Shalott. Willows whiten, aspens quiver, little breezes dusk and shiver, through the wave that runs forever, by the island in the river flowing down to Camelot. 4 gray walls and 4 gray towers overlook a space of flowers, and the silent isle embowers the Lady of Shalott. By the margin, willow-veiled, slide the heavy barges, trailed by slow horses, and unhailed the shallop flitteth, silken-sailed, skimming down to Camelot. But who hath seen her wave her hand, or at the casement seen her stand? Or is she known in all the land, the Lady of Shalott? Only reapers, reaping early, in among the bearded barley, hear a song that echoes cheerily from the river winding, clearly winding down to Camelot. And by the moon, the reaper weary, piling sheaves in uplands airy, listening, whispers, "'Tis the fairy Lady of Shalott." There she weaves by night and day a magic web with colors gay. She has heard a whisper say a curse is on her if she stay to look down to Camelot. She knows not what the curse may be, and so she weaveth steadily, and little other care hath she, the Lady of Shalott. And moving through a mirror clear that hangs before her all the year, shadows of the world appear. There she sees a highway near, winding down to Camelot. There the river eddy whirls, and there the surly village churls, and the red cloaks of market girls pass onward from Shalott. Sometimes a troop of damsels glad, an abbot on an ambling pad, sometimes a curly shepherd lad, or long-haired page in crimson clad, goes by to towered Camelot. And sometimes through the mirror blue, the knights come riding 2 and 2. She hath no loyal knight and true, the Lady of Shalott. But in her web she still delights to weave the mirror's magic sights, for often through the silent nights a funeral with plumes and lights and music went to Camelot. Or when the moon was overhead, came 2 young lovers lately wed. "I am half sick of shadows," said the Lady of Shalott. A bowshot from her bower eaves, he rode between the barley sheaves. The sun came dazzling through the leaves, and flamed upon the brazen greaves of bold Sir Lancelot. A Red Cross knight forever kneeled to a lady in his shield, that sparkled on the yellow field beside remote Shalott. The gemmy bridle glittered free, like to some branch of stars we see, hung in the golden galaxy. The bridle bells rang merrily as he rode down to Camelot. And from his blazoned baldric slung, a mighty silver bugle hung, and as he rode, his armor rung beside remote Shalott. All in the blue, unclouded weather, thick jewels shone the saddle leather. The helmet and the helmet feather burned like one burning flame together as he rode down to Camelot. As often through the purple night, below the starry clusters bright, some bearded meteor, trailing light, moves over still Shalott. His broad, clear brow in sunlight glowed. On burnished hoofs his war horse trode. From underneath his helmet flowed his coal-black curls as on he rode down to Camelot. From the bank and from the river, he flashed into the crystal mirror. Tiralira by the river sang Sir Lancelot. She left the web, she left the loom. She made 3 paces through the room. She saw the water lily bloom. She saw the helmet and the plume. She looked down to Camelot. Out flew the web and floated wide. The mirror cracked from side to side. "The curse has come upon me," cried the Lady of Shalott.
in the stormy east wind straining, the pale yellow woods were waning. The broad stream in his banks complaining, heavily the low sky raining over towered Camelot. Down she came and found a boat, beneath a willow left afloat, and round about the prow she wrote, the Lady of Shalott. And down the river's dim expanse, like some bold seer in a trance, seeing all his own mischance, with a glassy countenance did she look to Camelot. And at the closing of the day, she loosed the chain, and down she lay. The broad stream bore her far away, the Lady of Shalott. Lying, robed in snowy white, that loosely flew to left and right, the leaves upon her falling light, through the noises of the night, she floated down to Camelot. And as the boat head wound along the willowy hills and fields among, they heard her singing her last song, the Lady of Shalott. Heard a carol, mournful, holy, chanted loudly, chanted lowly, till her blood was frozen slowly, and her eyes were darkened wholly, turned to towered Camelot. For ere she reached upon the tide, the first house by the waterside, singing in her song, she died, the Lady of Shalott. Under tower and balcony, by garden wall and gallery, a gleaming shape she floated by, dead pale between the houses high, silent into Camelot. Out upon the wharfs they came, knight and burgher, lord and dame, and round the prow they read her name, the Lady of Shalott. Who is this, and what is here? And in the lighted palace anear died the sound of royal cheer, and they crossed themselves for fear, all the knights at Camelot. But Lancelot mused a little space. He said, "She has a lovely face. God in his mercy, lend her grace, the Lady of Shalott."
The Tale of Custer the Dragon by Augen Nass. Belinda lived in a little white house with a little black kitten and a little gray mouse and a little yellow dog and a little red wagon and a really truly little pet dragon. Now the name of this little black kitten was Ink, and the little gray mouse she called her Blink, and the little yellow dog was sharp as a mustard, but the dragon was a coward, and she called him Custard. Custard the dragon had big sharp teeth with spikes on top of him and scales underneath, mouth like a fireplace, chimney for a nose, and really truly daggers on his toes. Belinda was as brave as a barrel full of bears, and Ink and Blink chased lions down the stairs. Mustard was as brave as a tiger in a rage, but Custard cried for a nice, safe cage. Belinda tickled him, she tickled him unmerciful. Ink, Blink, and Mustard, they rudely called him Percival. They all sat laughing in the little red wagon at the really truly cowardly dragon. Belinda giggled till she shook the house, and Blink said weak, which is giggling for a mouse. Ink and Mustard, they rudely asked his age, when Custard cried for a nice safe cage. Suddenly, they heard a nasty sound. Mustard growled, and they all looked around. Mouch, cried Ink, and ooh, cried Belinda, for there was a pirate climbing in the window. Pistol in his left hand, pistol in his right, he held his teeth with a cutlass bright. His beard was black, one leg was wood. It's clear that the pirate meant no good. Belinda paled, she cried, help, help, but Mustard fled with a terrified yelp. Ink trickled down to the bottom of the household, and little Mouse Blink strategically mouseholed, but up jumped Custard, snorting like an engine, clashed his tail like irons in a dungeon, with a clatter and a clank and a jangling squirm. He went at the pirate like a robin at a worm. The pirate gaped at Belinda's dragon, gulped some grog from his pocket flagon, fired 2 bullets but they didn't hit, and Custard gobbled him every bit. Belinda embraced him, Mustard licked him, no one mourned for his pirate victim. Ink and Blink in glee did gyrate around the dragon that ate the pirate. And presently up spoke little dog Custard, Mustard, I'd be twice as brave if I hadn't been flustered. And up spoke Ink, and up spoke Blink, we'd be 3 times as brave, we think. And Custard said, I quite agree, that everybody is braver than me. Belinda still lives in her little white house with her little black kitten and her little gray mouse and her little yellow dog and her little red wagon and her really truly little pet dragon. Belinda was as brave as a barrel full of bears, and Ink and Blink chased lions down the stairs. Mustard was as brave as a tiger in a rage, but Custard keeps crying for a nice safe cage. The Annunciation, unknown author. An angel bright to God was sent, to Mary's home his flight he bent. He found the place wherein she dwelt, she heard God's message as she knelt. Obedient she bowed her head, I am thy handmaid, Lord, she said. The Dentist and the Crocodile by Roald Dahl. The crocodile, with cunning smile, sat in the dentist's chair. He said, right here and everywhere my teeth require repair. The dentist's face was turning white. He quivered, quaked, and shook. He muttered, I suppose I'm going to have to take a look. I want you, Crocodile declared, to do the back ones first. The molars at the very back are easily the worst. He opened wide his massive jaws. It was a fearsome sight. At least 300 pointed teeth, all sharp and shining white. The dentist kept himself well clear. He stood 2 yards away. He chose the longest probe he had to search out the decay. I said to do the back back ones first, the crocodile called out. You're much too far away, dear sir, to see what you're about. To do the back ones properly, you've got to put your head deep down inside my great big mouth, the grinning Crocky said. The poor old dentist wrung his hands and weeping in despair, he cried, No, I see them all extremely well from here. Just then, in burst a lady, in her hands a golden chain. She cried, Oh, Croc, you naughty boy, you're playing tricks again. Watch out, the dentist shrieked and started climbing up the wall. He's after me, he's after you, he's going to eat us all. Don't be a twit, the lady said, and flashing a gorgeous smile. He's harmless, he's my little pet, my lovely crocodile.
Two Dogs Waiting by Jean Little. I'll comfort you with apples or an upstairs maid, a plum tree, a ball gown, stiff with brocade. Tell me of the treasure you cannot resist. Would you like a nugget as big as your fist? A doll's house, a tea rose, a carriage and four, a genuine horseshoe to hang above your door. I'll make you a melody upon my guitar. I'll give you a skipping rope. I'll steal you a star. Champagne or cider, a mountain, a sea, a week in Spain, an aeroplane, a hot cup of tea. I will give you castles or Chippendale chairs, or two dogs waiting at the top of the stairs. Keep the maid, the apples, the star you stole from me, the rose and the nugget, the song and the sea. Keep the gown, the doll's house, the carriage and four, and you may hang the horseshoe above your own door. I couldn't cope with castles. The mountain you may keep. The former would be draughty, the latter too steep. Keep the rope for skipping and the white plum tree, the champagne, the cider, the week in Spain, the tea. Even keep the airplane and the antique chairs. But leave the two dogs waiting at the top of the stairs.
Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. Whose woods are these? I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near. Between the woods and frozen lake, he gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sound that's sweet is easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. Mix a pancake by Christina Rossetti. Mix a pancake, stir a pancake, pop it in the pan. Fry a pancake, toss the pancake, catch it if you can. Skimbleshanks, the Railway Cat by T.S. Eliot. There's a whisper down the line at 11:39 when the night mail is ready to depart, saying, Skimble, where is Skimble? Has he gone to hunt the thimble? We must find him or the train can't start. All the guards and all the porters and the station master's daughters, they are searching high and low, saying, Skimble, where is Skimble? For unless he's very nimble, then the night mail just can't go. At 11:42, when the signal's nearly due, and the passengers are frantic to a man, then Skimble will appear, and he'll saunter to the rear. He's been busy in the luggage van. He gives one flash of his glass-green eyes, and the signal goes, all clear, and we're off at last for the northern part of the northern hemisphere. You may say that by and large, it is Skimble who's in charge of the sleeping car express. From the driver to the guards to the badminton playing cards, he will supervise them all, more or less. Down the corridor he paces and examines all the faces of the travelers in the first and in the third. He establishes control by a regular patrol, and he'd know at once if anything occurred. He will watch you without winking, and he sees what you are thinking, as certain that he doesn't approve of hilarity and riot, so the folk are very quiet when Skimble is about and on the move. He can play no pranks with Skimble Shanks. He's a cat that cannot be ignored, so nothing goes wrong on the northern mail when Skimble Shanks is aboard. Oh, it's very pleasant when you have found your little den with your name written up on the door, and the berth is very neat with a new leaf foliage, and there's not a speck of dust on the floor. There is every sort of light. You can make it dark or bright. There's a button you can turn to make it breeze. There's a funny little basin you're supposed to wash your face in, and I crank shut the window you sneeze. Then the god looks in politely and will ask you very brightly, do you like your morning tea weak or strong? But Skimble's just behind him and was ready to remind him, for Skimble won't let anything go wrong. And when you creep into your cozy berth and pull up the counterpane, you are bound to admit that it's very nice to know that you won't be bugged by mice. You can leave all that to the railway cat, the cat of the railway train. In the middle of the night, he is always fresh and bright. Every now and then he has a cup of tea, with perhaps a drop of scotch while he is keeping on the watch, only stopping here and there to catch a flea. You were fast asleep at crew, and so you never knew that he was walking up and down the station. You were sleeping all the while. He was busy at Carlisle, where he greased the station master with elation. But you saw him at Dumfries, where he summons the police, if there's anything they ought to know about. When you get to Gallowgate, there you do not have to wait, for Skimble Shanks will help you to get out. He gives you a wave of his long brown tail, which says, I'll see you again. You'll meet without fail on the midnight mail, the cat of the railway train.
Lizzie's Line by Dennis Lee. Lizzie had a lion with a big bad roar, and she kept him in her bedroom by the closet cupboard door. Now, Lizzie's lion wasn't friendly. Lizzie's lion wasn't tame, unless maybe you learned to call him by his secret lion name. One dark night, a rotten robber with a rotten robber mask snuck through the bedroom window, and he didn't even ask. He had a bag of candy that was icky, sticky, sweet, just to make friends with a lion, if a lion he should meet. He sprinkled candy forward, he sprinkled candy back. Then he picked up Lizzie's piggy bank and stuck it in his sack. But as the rotten robber was preparing to depart, good old Lizzie's lion awakened with a snuffle and a start. He muttered, Candy, piffle. He rumbled, Candy, poo. And he gave the rotten robber an experimental chew. Then the robber shooed the lion, using every name he knew. But every time he shooed, the lion merely took another chew. It was, down Fido, leave Leo, shoo you good old boy. But the lion went on munching with a look of simple joy. It was, stop Mopsy, scram Sample, this is a disgrace. But the lion went on munching with a smile upon his face. Then old Lizzie heard the rumble, and old Lizzie heard the fight, and old Lizzie got her slippers and turned on the bedroom light. There was a robber on the toy shelf. There was a robber on the rug. There was a robber in the lion, who was looking rather smug. But old Lizzie wasn't angry, and old Lizzie wasn't rough. She simply said the secret name, Lion. That's enough. Then old Lizzie and her lion picked up the toes and tongue and head, and they put them in the garbage, and they both went back to bed.
The Charge of the Light Brigade by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Half a league, half a league onward, all in the valley of death row the children. Forward the Light Brigade, charge with guns, he said, into the valley of death row the 600. Forward the Light Brigade, was the man dismayed? Not though the soldier knew someone had blundered. Theirs not to make reply, theirs not to reason why, theirs but to do and die. Into the valley of death rode the 600. Cannon to the right of them, cannon to the left of them, cannon in front of them, volleyed and thundered, stormed that was shot and shell. Boldly they rode and well into the jaws of death, into the mouth of hell rode the 600. Flashed all those sabers bare, flashed as they turned and now, sabering the gunners there, charging an army, while all the world wondered, plunged in the barry smoke, right through the line they broke, Cossack and Russian, reeled from the sabre's stroke, shattered and sundered. Then they rode back, but not the 600. Cannon to the right of them, cannon to the left of them, cannon behind them, volleyed and thundered, stormed at with shot and shell, while horse and hero fell. They that had fought so well came through the jaws of death, back from the mouth of hell. All that was left of them, left of 600. When can their glory fade? Oh, the wild charge they made. All the world wondered, honored the charge they made, honored the light brigade, noble 600.
October's Party by George Cooper. October gave a party, the leaves by hundreds came, the chestnuts, oaks, and maples, and leaves of every name. The sunshine spread the carpet, and everything was grand. Miss Weather led the dancing, Professor Wynne the band. The chestnuts came in yellow, the oaks in crimson dressed, the lovely Mrs. Maple in scarlet looked best. All balanced to their partners and gaily fluttered by, the sight was like a rainbow new fallen from the sky. Then in the rustic hollow at hide and seek they played. The party closed at sundown and everybody stayed. Professor Wynne played louder, they flew across the ground, and then the party ended in jolly hands around. The Wind by Robert Louis Stevenson. I saw you toss the kites on high and blow the birds about the sky, and all around I heard you pass like lady skirts across the grass. A wind a-blowing all day long, a wind that sings so loud a song. I saw the different things you did, but always you yourself who hid. I felt you push, I heard you call, I could not see yourself at all. A wind a-blowing all day long, a wind that sings so loud a song. Oh, you that are so strong and cold, oh blower, are you young or old? Are you a beast of field and tree, or just a stronger child than me? A wind a-blowing all day long, a wind that sings so loud a song. The Jabberwocky by Lewis Carroll. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wave. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome rat outgrabe. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that scratch. Beware the Jub-Jub bird, and shun the frumious Bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand, long time the manxome foe he sought. So rested he by the tum-tum tree, and stood awhile in thought. And as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock, with eyes of flame, came whiffling through the tulgey wood, and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through the vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left him dead, and with its head he went galumphing back. And hast thou slayed the Jabberwock? Come into my arms, my beamish boy. O frabjous day, callooh, callay, he torkled in his joy. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wave. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome rat outgrabe.
shall so esteem. I cannot go to school today, said little Peggy Ann McKay. I have the measles and the mumps, a gash, a rash, and purple bumps. My mouth is up, my throat is shut, I'm going blind in my right eye. My tonsils are as big as ours, I've counted 16 chickenpox, and there's one more, that's 17. And don't you think my face was green? My leg is cut, my eyes are blue, it might be in somatic flu. I cough and sneeze and gasp and choke, I'm sure that my left leg is broke. My hip hurts when I move my chin, my belly button's caving in. My back is wrenched, my ankles sprained, my appendix pains each time it rains. My neck is stiff, my voice is weak, I hardly whisper when I speak. My elbows bent, my spine ain't straight, my temperature is 108. My brain is shrunk, I cannot hear it, there is a hole inside my ear. I have a hang on my heart is. What? What's that? What's that you say? You say today is Saturday? Goodbye.
How you like to go up and swing, up in the air so blue. Oh, I do think it's the pleasantest thing ever a child can do. Up in the air and over the wall, till I can see so wide. River and trees and cattle and all, over the countryside. Till I look down on the garden green, down on the roof so brown. Up in the air, a flying again, up in the air and down. Goose by Jalad Burgess. The goose they lick their fingernails, and the goose they lick their knives. They spill their broth on the table. Oh, they lead disgusting lives. The goose they talk while eating, and loud and fast they chew. And that is why I'm glad that I am not a goose. Are you?
Manners and Characters by Anonymous. Hearts like doors will open with ease to very, very little keys. And don't forget that 2 of these are thank you, sir, and if you please. There's nothing so kingly as kindness, and nothing so royal as truth. Deal with another as you would have another deal with you. What you're unwilling to receive, be sure you never do. Speak gently to the little thing dropped in the heart's deep well. The good, the joy that it may bring, eternity shall tell.
When I Was One by A. Milne. When I was 1, I had just begun. When I was 2, I was nearly new. When I was 3, I was hardly me. When I was 4, I was not much more. When I was 5, I was just alive. But now I'm 6, as clever as clever. I think I'll stay 6 now, forever and ever. The Worm by Ralph Bergengren. When the earth is turned in spring, the worms are as fat as anything. The birds come flying all around to eat the worms right off the ground. They like the worms as much as I like bread and milk and apple pie. And once when I was very young, I stuck a worm right on my tongue. I did not like the taste of it, so I didn't swallow it. But oh, it makes my mother squirm because she thinks I ate the worm.
The Little Turtle by Rochelle Lindsay. There was a little turtle. He lived in a box. He swam in the puddles. He climbed on the rocks. He snapped at a mosquito. He snapped at a flea. And he snapped at a minnow. And he snapped at me. He caught the mosquito. He caught the flea. He caught the minnow, but he didn't catch me.
The Turtle by Anonymous. There was once a little turtle. He lived in a box. He swam in a puddle. He climbed over rocks. He snapped at a mosquito. He snapped at a flea. He snapped at a minnow, and he snapped at me. He caught the mosquito, he caught the flea, he caught the minnow, but he didn't catch me.
The Spider and the Fly by Mary Howard. Will you walk into my parlor, said the spider to the fly. 'Tis the prettiest little parlor that ever you did spy. The way into my parlor is up a winding stair, and I've many curious things to show when you are there. Oh, no, no, said the little fly, to ask me is in vain. For who goes up the winding stair can ne'er come down again. I'm sure you must be weary, dear, with soaring up so high. Will rest upon my little bed, said the spider to the fly. There are pretty curtains drawn around, the sheets are fine and thin. And if you like to rest a while, I'll snugly tuck you in. Oh, no, no, said the little fly. For I often heard it said, they never, never wake again who sleep upon your bed.
Said the
Said the cunning spider to the fly, "Dear friend, what can I do to prove the warm affection I've always felt for you? I have within my pantry good store of all that's nice. I'm sure you're very welcome. Will you please to take a slice?" "Oh, no, no," said the little fly. "Kind sir, that cannot be. I've heard what's in your pantry, and I do not wish to see." Said the cunning spider to the fly, "Dear friend, what can I do to prove the warm affection?" "Sweet creature," said the spider, "you're witty and you're wise. How handsome are your gauzy wings, how brilliant are your eyes. I have a little looking glass upon my parlor shelf. If you'll step in one moment, dear, you shall behold yourself." "I thank you, gentle sir," she said, "for what you're pleased to say. I'm bidding you good morning now, I'll call another day." The spider turned around about and went into his den. For well he knew the silly fly would soon be back again. So he wove a settled web in a little corner slide, and set his table ready to dine upon the fly. Then he came out to his door again, and merrily did sing, "Come hither, hither, pretty fly, with pearl and silver wing. Your robes are green and purple, there's a crest upon your head. Your eyes are like the diamond bright, but mine are dull as lead." Alas, alas, how very soon the silly little fly, hearing his wildly flattering words, came slowly flitting by. With buzzing wings she hung aloft, then near and nearer drew, thinking only of her brilliant eyes and the green and purple hue, thinking only of her crested head. Poor foolish thing! At last up jumped the cunning spider and fiercely held her fast. He dragged her up his winding stair into his den within his little parlor, but she ne'er came out again. And now, dear little children, who may this story read, to idle, silly, flattering words, I pray you ne'er give heed unto an evil counselor. Close heart and ear and eye, and take a lesson from this tale of the spider and the fly.
The Bogus Boo by James Reeves. The bogus boo is a creature who comes out at night, and why? He likes the air, he likes to scare the nervous passer-by. Out from the park at dead of dark he comes with huffling pad. If, when alone, you hear his moan, 'tis like to drive you mad. He has two wings, pathetic things, with which he cannot fly. His tusks look fierce, yet could not pierce the merest butterfly. He has 6 ears, but what he hears is very faint and small, and with the claws on his 8 paws he cannot scratch at all. He looks so wise with his owl eyes, his aspect grim and ghoulish, but truth to tell he sees not well, and is distinctly foolish. This bogus boo, what can he do but huffle in the dark? So don't take fright, he has no bite and very little bark.
Hoppity by A.A. Milne. Christopher Robin goes hoppity hoppity, hoppity hoppity hop. Whenever I tell him politely to stop it, he says he can't possibly stop. If he stopped hopping, he couldn't go anywhere. Poor little Christopher couldn't go anywhere. That's why he always goes hoppity hoppity, hoppity hoppity hop.
Mcgee by Blair Bell. There was a boy whose name was Jim. His friends were very good to him. They gave him tea and cakes and jam and slices of delicious ham and chocolate with pink inside and little tricycles to ride and read him stories through and through and even took him to the zoo. But there was a dreadful fate befell him, which I now relate.
You know, or at least you ought to know, for I have often told you so, that children never are allowed to leave their nurses in a crowd. Now this was Jim's especial foible. He ran away when he was able, and on his inauspicious day, he slipped his hand and ran away.
He hadn't gone a yard when bang! With open jaws a lion sprang, and hungrily he began to eat the boy, beginning at his feet. Now just imagine how it feels when first your toes and then your heels, and then by gradual degrees, your shins and ankles, calves and knees are slowly eaten bit by bit. No wonder Jim detested it. No wonder that he shouted high.
The honest keeper heard his cry, though very fat, he almost ran to help the little gentleman. Ponto, he ordered as he came, for Ponto was the lion's name. Ponto, he cried with angry frown. Let go, sir, down, sir, put it down. The lion made a sudden stop. He let the dainty morsel drop, and slunk reluctant to his cage, snarling with disappointed rage. And when he bent over Jim, the honest keeper's eyes were dim. The lion having reached his head, the miserable boy was dead.
When nurse informed his parents, they were more concerned than I can say. His mother, as she dried her eyes, said, well, it gives me no surprise. He would not do as he was told.
His father, who was self-controlled, bade all the children round attend to James's miserable end.
And always keep a hold of nurse for fear of finding something worse.
God's Garden by Robert Frost. God made a beauteous garden with lovely flowers strewn, but one straight narrow pathway that was not overgrown. And to this beauteous garden he brought mankind to live, and said, to you, my children, these lovely flowers I give. Prune ye my vines and fig trees, with care my flowers tend, but keep the pathway open, your home is at the end. Then came another master, who did not love mankind, and planted on the pathway gold flowers for them to find. Mankind saw these bright flowers like glittering in the sun, quite hid the thorns of avarice that poison blood and bone. And far from many wandered, and when life's night came on, they were still seeking gold flowers, lost, helpless, and alone. Oh, cease to ye clamor, the blinds of foolish eyes. Look upward toward the glitter of stars in God's clear skies. Their ways are pure and harmless. They will not lead astray, but aid your erring footsteps to keep the narrow way. And when the sun shines brightly, tend to flowers that God has given, and keep the pathway open that leads you on to heaven.
Little Red Riding Hood and the Wolf by Roald Dahl. As soon as Wolf began to feel that he would like a decent meal, he went and knocked on Grandma's door. When Grandma opened it, she saw the sharp white teeth, the horrid grin, and Wolfie said, "May I come in?" Poor Grandmama was terrified. "He's going to eat me up, she cried. And she was absolutely right. He ate her up in one big bite. But Grandmama was small and tough. And Wolfie wailed, "That's not enough. I haven't yet began to feel that I have had a decent meal." He ran around the kitchen yelping, "I've got to have a second helping," then added with a frightful leer, "I'm therefore going to wait right here till little Miss Red Riding Hood comes home from walking in the wood." He quickly put on Grandma's clothes. Of course he hadn't eaten those. He dressed himself in coat and hat. He put on shoes, and after that, he even brushed and curled his hair, then sat himself in Grandma's chair. In came the little girl in red. She stopped, she stared, and then she said, "What great big ears you have, Grandma." "All the better to hear you with," the wolf replied. "What great big eyes you have, Grandma," said Little Red Riding Hood. "All the better to see you with," the wolf replied. He sat there watching her and smiled. He thought, "I'm going to eat this child. Compared with her old grandmama, she's going to taste like caviar." Then Little Red Riding Hood said, "But Grandma, what a lovely great big furry coat you have on." "That's wrong," cried Wolf. "Have you forgot to tell me what big teeth I've got? Ah, well, no matter what you say, I'm going to eat you anyway." The small girl smiles when eyelid flickers. She whips a pistol from her knickers and aims it at the creature's head, and bang, 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 she shoots him dead. A few weeks later, in the wood, I came across Miss Riding Hood. But what a change! No cloak of red, no silly hood upon her head. She said, "Hello, and please do note my lovely furry wolfskin coat." Oh, the Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss. Congratulations, today is your day. You're off to great places, you're off and away. You have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. You're on your own, and you know what you know, and you are the guide who will decide where to go. You'll look up and down streets, look them over with care. About some you will say, "I don't choose to go there." With your head full of brains and your shoes full of feet, you're too smart to go down any not-so-good street. And you may not find any you'll want to go down. In that case, of course, you'll head straight out of town. It's opener there in the wide open air. Oh, there things can happen, and frequently do, to people as brainy and footsy as you. Then things start to happen. Don't worry, don't stew, just go right along. You'll start happening too. Oh, the places you'll go. You'll be on your way up. You'll be seeing great sights. You'll join the high flyers who soar to high heights. You won't lag behind because you'll have the speed. You'll pass the whole gang and you'll soon take the lead. Wherever you fly, you'll be the best of the best. Wherever you go, you will top all the rest. Except when you don't, because sometimes you won't. I'm sorry to say so, but sadly it's true that bang-ups and hang-ups can happen to you. You can get all hung up in that prickly perch that your gang will fly on. You'll be left in a lurch. You'll come down from the lurch with an unpleasant bump, and chances are then that you'll be in a slump. And when you're in a slump, you're not in for much fun. Unslumping yourself is not easily done. You will come to a place where the streets are not marked. Some windows are lighted, but mostly they're dark. A place you could sprain both your elbow and chin. Do you dare to stay out? Do you dare to go in? How much can you lose? How much can you win? And if you go in, should you turn left or right? Or right and 3/4? Or maybe not quite? Or go around back and sneak in from behind? Simple it's not, I'm afraid you'll find, for a mind-maker-upper to make up his mind. You can get so confused that you'll start to race down long wiggled roads at a breaknecking pace and grind on for miles across weirdish wild space, headed, I fear, toward a most useless place, the waiting place, for people just waiting. waiting for a train to go, or bus to come, or plane to go, or the mail to come, or the rain to go, or the phone to ring, or the snow to snow, or the waiting around for a yes or a no, or waiting for their hair to grow. Everyone is just waiting. Waiting for the fish to bite, or waiting for the wind to fly a kite, or waiting around for a Friday night, or waiting perhaps for their Uncle Jake, or a pot to boil, or a better break, or a string of pearls, or a pair of pants, or a wig of pearls, or another chance. Everyone is just waiting. No, that's not for you. Somehow you'll escape all that waiting and staying. You'll find the bright places where the boom bands are playing, the banner flip-flapping. Once more you'll ride high, ready for anything under the sky, ready because you're that kind of guy. Oh, the places you'll go, there's fun to be done, there are points to be scored, there are games to be won, and the magical things you can do with that ball will make you the winningest winner of all. Fame! You'll be as famous can be, with the whole wide world watching you win on TV. Except when they don't, because sometimes they won't. I'm afraid sometimes you'll play lonely games too. Games you can't win because they'll play against you. All alone, whether you like it or not. Alone will be something you'll be quite a lot. And when you're alone, there's a very good chance that you'll meet things that scare you right out of your pants. There are some down the road between hither and yon that can scare you so much you won't want to go on. But on you'll go though the weather be foul. On you'll go though your enemies prowl. On you'll go though the hacking cracks howl. Onward up many a frightening creek, though your arms may get sore and your sneakers may leak. On and on you'll hike, and I know you'll hike far, and face up to your problems, whatever they are. You'll get mixed up, of course, as you already know. You'll get mixed up with many strange birds as you go. So be sure when you step with care and great tact. And remember that life's a great balancing act. Just never forget to be dexterous and deft, and never mix up your right foot with your left. And will you succeed? Yes, you will indeed. 98.75% guaranteed. Kid, you'll move mountains. So be your name Buckspawn or Bixby or Bray or Mordecai, Alley, Van Allen, O'Shea. You're off to great places. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting. So get on your way.
Attention please, by Roald Dahl. Attention please. Don't dare to talk, don't dare to sneeze. Don't doze or daydream, stay awake. Your health, your very life's at stake. Ho ho, you say, they can't mean me. Ha ha, we answer, wait and see. Did any of you ever meet a child called Goldie Pinklesweet, who on her 7th birthday went to stay with Granny down in Kent? At lunchtime on the 2nd day of dearest little Goldie's stay, Granny announced, I'm going down to do some shopping in the town. Do you know why Granny didn't tell the child to come along as well? She's going to the nearest inn to buy herself a double gin. So out she creeps, she shuts the door, and Goldie, after making sure she is really by herself, goes quickly to the medicine shelf. And there, her little greedy eyes see pills of every shape and size. Such fascinating colors, too. Some green, some pink, some brown, some blue. All right, she says, let's try the brown. She takes one pill and gulps it down. Yum, yum, she cries. Hooray, what fun. They're chocolate-coated, everyone. She gobbles 5. She gobbles 10. She stops her gobbling only when the last pill's gone. There are no more. Slowly, she rises from the floor. She stops,
She hiccups. Dear, oh dear. She starts to feel a trifle queer. You see, how could Goldie know, for nobody had told her so, that Grandmama, her old relation, suffered from frightful constipation. This means that every night she'd give herself a powerful laxative, and all the pills that she bought were naturally of this sort. The pink, the red, the blue, the green were all extremely strong and mean, but far more fierce and meaner still was Granny's little chocolate pill. Its blast effect was quite uncanny. It used to shake up even Granny. In point of fact, she did not dare to use it more than twice a year. So can you wonder, little Goldie began to feel a wee bit moldy? Inside her tummy, something stirred. A funny gurgling sound was heard, and then, oh dear, from deep within, the ghastly rumbling sounds begin. They rumblate and roar and boom. They bounce and echo round the room. The floorboards shake, and from the wall, some bits of paint and plaster fall. Explosions, whistles, awful bangs were followed by the loudest clangs. A man next door was heard to say, "A thunderstorm is on the way." But on the rumbling goes. A window cracks, a lamp blows. Young Goldie clutched herself and cried, "There's something wrong with my inside." This was, we very greatly fear, the understatement of the year. For wouldn't any child feel crummy with loud explosions in her tummy? Granny, at 2:30, came in, weaving a little from the gin. But even so, she quickly saw the empty bottle on the floor. "My precious laxatives!" she cried. "I don't feel well," the girl replied. Angrily, Grandma shook her head. "I'm really not surprised," she said. "Why can't you leave my pills alone?" With that, she grabbed the telephone and shouted, "Listen, send us quick! An ambulance! A child is sick! It's number 50 Fountain Road! Come fast! I think she might explode!" We're sure you do not wish to hear about the hospital and where they did a lot of horrid things. With stomach pumps and rubber rings? Let's answer what you want to know. Did Goldie live or did she go? The doctors gathered round her bed. "There's really not much hope," they said. "She's going, gone," they cried. "She's had her chips. She's dead. She's died." "I'm not so sure," the child replied. And all at once she opened wide her great big bluish eyes inside and gave the anxious dogs a wing. "I'll be okay, I think." So Goldie lived, and back she went, at first to Granny's place in Kent. Her father came the second day and fetched her in a Chevrolet to take her to their home in Dover. But Goldie's troubles were not over. You see, if someone takes enough of any highly dangerous stuff, one will invariably find some traces of it left behind. So can you wonder, little Goldie began to feel a wee bit moldy? Inside her tummy, it pains It pains us greatly to relate that Goldie suffered from this fate. She'd taken such a massive fill of this unpleasant kind of pill. It got into her blood and bones. It messed up all her chromosomes. It made her constantly upset, and she could never really get the beastly stuff to go away. And so the girl was forced to stay for 7 hours every day within the everlasting gloom of what we call the ladies' room. And after all, the WC is not the gayest place to be. So please, before it is too late, take heed of Goldie's dreadful fate. And seriously, all jokes apart, do promise us across your heart that you will never help yourself to medicine from the medicine shelf.
Hope is a Thing with Feathers by Emily Dickinson. Hope is a thing with feathers that perches in my soul, and sings a tune without the words, and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sorrow must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chilliest land and in the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me.
Asians by Shel Silverstein. If we meet and say hi, that's a salutation. If you ask me how I feel, that's consideration. If we stop and talk a while, that's a conversation. If we understand each other, that's communication. If we argue, scream, and fight, that's an altercation. If later we apologize, that's reconciliation. If we help each other home, that's cooperation. And all these Asians added up together make civilization. And if I say this is a wonderful poem, is that exaggeration? And a little part of the poem that I made by myself. If I say this poem all wrong, that is humiliation.
How to Tell the Wild Animals by Carolyn Wells. If you ever should go by chance to jungles in the east, and if there should to you advance a large and tawny beast, if he roars at you as you're dying, you'll know it's the Asian lion. Or if sometime when roaming round, a noble wild beast greets you, with black stripes on a yellow ground, just notice if he eats you. The simple rule may help you learn the Bengal tiger to discern. If strolling forth a beast you view, whose hide with spots is peppered, as soon as he has leapt on you, you'll know it is the leopard. 'Twill do no good to roar with pain, he'll only leap and leap again. If when you're walking round your yard, you meet a creature there, who hugs you very, very hard, be sure it is the bear. If you have any doubt, I guess, he'll give you just one more caress. Though to distinguish beasts of prey, a novice must nonplus. The crocodiles you always may tell from hyenas. Thus, hyenas come with merry smiles, but if they weep, they're crocodiles. The true chameleon is small, a lizard sort of thing. It hasn't any ears at all, and not a single wing. If there is nothing on the tree, 'tis the chameleon you see.
Casey at the Bat by Ernest Lawrence Thayer. The outlook wasn't brilliant for the Mudville 9 that day. The scores to 2-4 with but one inning more to play. And then when Cooney died at first and Barrows did the same, a pall-like silence fell upon the patrons of the game. A straggling few got up to go in deep despair. The rest clung to the hope which remains eternal from the human breast. They thought, if only Casey could but get a whack at that, we'd put up even money now with Casey at the bat. But Flynn proceeded Casey, as did also Jimmy Blake. The former was a hoodoo, while the latter was a cake. So upon that stricken multitude, grim melancholy sat, for there seemed but little chance of Casey getting to the bat. But Flynn let drive a single to the wonderment of all, and Blake, the much despised, tore the cover off the ball. And when the dust had lifted, and men saw what had occurred, there was Jimmy, safe at second, and Flynn a hugging third. But then from 5,000 throats and more, there rose a lusty yell. It rumbled through the valley, it rattled in the dell, it pounded on the mountains, and recoiled on the flat. For Casey, mighty Casey, was advancing to the bat. There was ease in Casey's manner as he stepped into his place. There was pride in Casey's bearing, and a smile into Casey's face. And when responding to the cheers, he lightly doffed his hat. No stranger in the crowd could doubt 'twas Casey at the bat. 10,000 eyes were on him as he rubbed his hands with dirt. 5,000 tongues applaud him when he wipes them on his shirt. And well the writhing pitcher ground the ball into his hip. Defiance flashed in Casey's eye. A sneer curled Casey's lip. And now the leather-covered sphere came hurling through the air, and Casey stood watching it in haughty grandeur there. Close by the sturdy batsman, the ball unheeded sped. "That ain't my style," said Casey. "Strike one," the umpire said. And from the benches, black with people, there went up a muffled roar, like the beating of the storm waves on a stern and distant shore. "Kill him! Kill the umpire!" shouted someone from the stand. And it's likely they'd have killed him had not Casey raised his hand. With a smile of Christian charity, great Casey's visage shone. He stilled the rising tumult. He bade the game go on. He signaled to the pitcher, and once more the dun sphere flew. But Casey still ignored it, and the umpire said, "Strike two!" "Fraud!" cried the maddened thousands, and echo answered fraud. But one scornful look from Casey, and the audience was awed. They saw his face grow stern and cold. They saw his muscles strain, and they knew that Casey wouldn't let that ball go by again. The sneer is gone from Casey's lip. His teeth are clenched in hate. He pounds with cruel violence his bat upon the plates. And now the pitcher holds the ball, and now he lets it go, and now the air is shattered by the force of Casey's blow. Well, somewhere in the favored land, the sun is shining bright. The band is playing somewhere, and somewhere hearts are light. Somewhere men are laughing, and somewhere children shout. But there is no joy in Mudville. Mighty Casey has struck out.
Saint Teresa of the Sioux by Margaret Posh. Saint Teresa, a little flower, share her little way of glory close to Jesus Christ each and every day. A abundant one and gratitude, a generous and helping hand, learning to smile and not complaining when things goes as planned.
The Three Little Pigs by Roald Dahl. The animal I really dig above all others is the pig. Pigs are noble, pigs are clever, pigs are courteous. However, now and then, to break this rule, one meets a pig who is a fool. What, for example, would you say if strolling through the woods one day, right there in front of you, you saw a pig who'd built his house of straw? The wolf who saw it licked his lips and said, "That pig has had his chicks. Little pig, let me come in." "No, no, by the hairs on my chinny chin chin. Then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in." The little pig began to pray, but Wolfie blew his house away. He shouted, "Bacon, pork, and ham! Oh, what a lucky wolf I am!" And though he ate the pig quite fast, he carefully kept the tail to last. Wolf wandered on, a trifle bloated. Surprise, surprise, for soon he noted another little house for pigs, and this one had been built of twigs. Little pig, let me come in." "No, no, by the hairs on my chinny chin chin. Then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in." Wolf shouted, "Okay, here we go," and he began to blow and blow. The little pig began to squeal, "Oh, Wolf, you've had one meal. Why can't we talk and make a deal?" The wolf replied, "Not on your Nelly," and soon the pig was in his belly. "Two juicy pigs," the wolf cried, "but still I'm not quite satisfied. I know how full my tummy's bulging, but oh, how I adore indulging." So creeping quietly as a mouse, the wolf approached another house, a house which also had inside a little piggy trying to hide. "You'll not get me," Piggy cried. "I'll blow you down," the wolf replied. "You'll need," Pig said, "a lot of puff, and I don't think you've got enough." Wolf huffed and blew, but the house stayed up as good as new. "If I can't blow it down," the wolf said, "I'll have to blow it up instead. I'll come back at the dead of night and blow it up with dynamite." "You brute," Pig cried, "I might have known," and picking up the telephone, he dialed quickly as he could the number of Red Riding Hood. "Hello," she said, "who's speaking who? Oh, hello, Piggy, how do you do?"
I need your help, Miss Hood, Pig cried. Oh, help me, please. Do you think you could? I'll try, of course, Miss Hood replied. What's on your mind? A wolf, Pig cried. I know you've dealt with wolves before, and now I've got one at my door. My darling Pig, she cried, my sweet, that's something really up my street. I've just began to wash my hair, but when it's dry, I'll be right there. A while later, through the wood, came striding brave Miss Riding Hood. The wolf stood there, his eyes ablaze, and yellowish like mayonnaise. His teeth were yellow, his gums were raw, and spit was dripping from his jaw. Once more the maiden's eyelid flickers, she whips a pistol from her knickers. Once more she hits a vital spot and kills him with a single shot. Pig peeping through the window stood and yelled, well done, Miss Riding Hood. Ah, Piglet, you must never trust young ladies from the upper crust. For now, Miss Riding Hood, one notes, not only has 2 wolfskin coats, but when she goes from place to place, carries a pigskin traveling case.
Introduction to the Legend of Luke by Brian Jacques. The young must grow old whilst the old ones grow older, and cowards will shrink as the bold grow bolder. Courage may blossom in quiet hearts, for who can tell where bravery starts? Truth is a song oft lying unsung, some mother bird protecting her young. Those who lay down their lives for friends, the echo rolls onward, it seldom ends. Who never turned and ran but stayed, this is a warrior born not made. Living in peace, I many a season, calm in life and sound in reason, till evil arrives, a wicked horde, driving a warrior to pick up his sword. The challenger rings, then straight and fair, justice is with us, beware, beware.
Such dreadful lies, it made one gasp and stretch one's eyes. Her aunt, who from her earliest youth had kept a strict regard for truth, attempted to believe Matilda, the effort very nearly killed her, and would have done so had not she discovered this infirmity.
For once towards the close of day, Matilda, growing tired of play, was finding she was left alone when tiptoed to the telephone and summoned the immediate aid of London's noble fire brigade. Within an hour the gallant band were pouring in on every hand, from puny Hackins, Downs, and Bow. With courage high and hearts aglow, they galloped roaring through the town. Matilda's house is burning down. Inspired by British cheers unloud, proceeding from the frenzied crowd, they ran their ladders through a score of windows on the ballroom floor, and took peculiar pains to souse the windows up and down the house until Matilda's aunt succeeded in showing them they were not needed, and even then she had to pay to get the men to go away. It happened that a few weeks later, her aunt was off to the theater to see the interesting play, The Second Miss Tanqueray. She had refused to take her niece to hear this entertaining piece, a declaration just and wise to punish her for telling lies. That night a fire did break out. You should have heard Matilda shout. You should have heard her scream and bawl and throw the window up and call to people passing in the street, the rapidly increasing heat, encouraging her to obtain their confidence, but all in vain, for every time she shouted fire, they only answered little liar.
And therefore, when her aunt returned, Matilda and the house were burnt.
The Five Little Monsters, author unknown. 5 little monsters by the light of the moon, stirring pudding with a wooden pudding spoon. The first one said, it mustn't be runny. The second one said, that'll make it taste funny. The third one said, it mustn't be lumpy. The fourth one said, that will make me grumpy. The fifth one smiled and hummed a little tune while licking up the drippings from the wooden pudding spoon.
Standing on a Chair by Steve Hansen.
I'm standing on a chair. I'm standing on a chair. I don't know why I'm worried. I'm just standing on a chair.
You'd think she'd be freaked out by the lion in my room, but seeing shoes on fabric is what really makes her fume.
I bath with toxic jellyfish and ride a crocodile, but if I'm on the sofa, then her mood becomes hostile. I often sleep with scorpions and wrestle with a bear. I don't know why Mom's worried. I'm just standing on a chair.
As soon as Wolf began to feel that he would like a decent meal, he went and knocked on Grandma's door, and Grandma opened it. She saw
The sharp-eyed teeth, the horrid grin, and Wolfie said, may I come in? Her grandmama was terrified.
He's going to eat me up, she cried, and she was absolutely right. He ate her up in one big bite, but Grandmama was swallowed up and Wolfie wailed.
That's not enough. I haven't yet begun to feel that I have had a decent meal. He went around the kitchen yelping, I've got to have a second helping. Then added with a frightened rear, I'm therefore going to wait right here till little Miss Riding Hood comes home to mock him into work.
He quickly put on Grandma's clothes. Of course he had eaten those. He dressed himself in coat and hat and put on shoes, and after that, he even brushed and combed his hair, then sat himself in Grandma's chair.
In came the little girl in red. She stopped, she stared, and then she said,
Oh, Grandma, what big ears you have.
All the better to hear you with, the wolf replied.
Oh, Grandma, what big eyes you have, said Little Red Riding Hood.
All the better to see you with, the wolf replied. He sat there watching her and smiled. He thought, I'm going to eat this child. Compared to old grandmama, she's going to taste like caviar.
The Little Red Riding Hood said, But Grandma, what a great big lovely fur coat you have on.
That's wrong, cried Wolf. Haven't you forgot to tell me what big teeth I've got? Oh, no matter what you say, I'm going to eat you anyway.
The Smelka smiles, one-eyed flicker. She whips the pistol from her knickers and aims it at the creature's head, and bang, 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 shoots him dead. A few weeks later,
later in the wood, I came across Miss Riding Hood. But what a change, no cloak of bed, no silly hood upon her head. She said, hello, and do please note my love and boy whips they count.
How much time do you need? 2 minutes? Okay.
Hello, everyone. I really enjoyed being here this afternoon. Thank you for sharing all your works. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Frances, and for 20 years I was a speech arts and drama teacher for the Conservatory at Mount Royal University. I still teach speech and drama out of my house. It works a little better around my kids' schedule. And I really love coming to poetry slams because I'm all about poetry, and I'm all about talking, and I'm all about, no matter who you are, and how scared you are, or maybe you're not so scared, everybody can learn the skill of public speaking, communicating someone else's words to an audience, and knowing that this doesn't require talent and just a certain part of the public that's them. The people that are not shy and have it. I don't believe in it. I don't believe in talent. I believe in skill because everyone can learn it. Now, one funny thing that I'm always looking at stats because this is what I do for a living. But there's stats out there that say 78% of the general public have a fear of public speaking. They feel like they can't do it. And those are stats on adults, not children. So I think when children get up here and our youth get up here and show us how much they can do and how they can be brave and skillful and deliver a poem, I think that we can show all the adults in this world that anyone can do this. And this is something that I hear professional actors say all the time. I'm scared every time I get up and have to speak. I'm scared. Oscar Award winners are scared. Emmy Award winners are scared. That fear of public speaking, that never goes away. Oh, I'm so sorry. That's the truth. It never goes away. But we can learn to work against it. One of the things that we can do to work against our fear is to breathe. Who is standing here waiting for their turn, not breathing? Anybody? Yeah, because as soon as we're scared, we want to. And unfortunately, that never works. Hands up so that you can show everyone who had a moment when they were up here and they thought they forgot what was coming next. Oh yeah, I hear you. I've been there forgetting what's coming next when the audience spent $70 and up to see this play. And that's not a good feeling. That's a really bad feeling. But I know a trick. I know how to breathe through that. Now, when I go to festivals like this or competitions, I see this all the time. The person forgets their line and they do this. They breathe in through their nose and then they look at their eyebrows. Like the words are gonna be like blip, 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 on my eyebrows. And the problem with that is when we freeze the breath, we freeze our thoughts. that doesn't help at all. And when we look up, we're frozen. And then the audience is thinking, what's going on? Are they stuck? So I want you to get used to being uncomfortable with your hesitation and breathe through your mouth, not your nose. And I want you to know that a pause is okay. We'll wait for you. Audiences like pauses, especially if you're running too fast. And if, in 5 breaths, the line still doesn't come to you, then you can just calmly say, line, and one of these nice 4 people are going to give you the line. Or maybe your teacher. Or if you're in a play, maybe your director from the wing. Or if you're doing choral speech, which a lot of you are doing, maybe someone on stage will know your line. And that's okay. And then just keep going. And then this is what else happens when we've made that mistake. Then we want to say the rest of the piece as fast as possible and get out of there. Don't do that. You have to learn to forgive and go on like nothing ever happened. So hard to do because we judge ourselves, right? But that's what we have to do when we get stuck. We have to find our breath, breathe through our mouth, and then go right on as if nothing ever happened. The audience will forgive you. In fact, the audience probably won't even remember that that's what happened. So I'm just going to go through a few notes. But if you want results, yeah, okay. You don't want to make the buses late? I enjoyed everybody's piece. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ewington, and to all the other judges as well, to Father Hubka and to Mr. and Mrs. Edwards. We have a small token of appreciation to show our gratitude for you coming out today. Our first winner is our grade 11-12 winner, and that is Olivia Duke. Taking pictures? Irene's taking pictures. Let's stand over here. Just take a picture of her. Take a picture. They have lots of me. Our next winner is grade 7-8, and that is Maria O'Neill. Our 9-10 winner, Cordelia Milner. Grade 3, Camille Boudreau. 4 winner, Danae Scruggs. Grade 1, Galilee DeBray. It's a long way to walk. Grade 2 winner is Charlize Scruggs. Grade 5, Felice Boudreau. Grade 6, Sophia Sanish. Our team winners, the Sear Gang. Patrick, Carter, and Zachary. Now get a picture with us. Okay, some final thank yous and our closing prayer. Again, a special thank you to all of our judges for coming out again once for another year. To our very kind people at Bow Valley who helped us with the sound and the lighting and everything else, and the fantastic facility. For all the tutors that really encourage the students to memorize the poetry and to perform. And especially for all the students that did such a great job memorizing and presenting. Big round of applause for everyone, please. And if you will, just quietly listen to the final prayer. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. To you, O Jesus, do I turn my true and last end. You are the river of life which alone can satisfy my thirst. Without you, all else is barren and void. Without all else, you alone are enough for me. You are the Redeemer of those who are lost, the sweet consoler of the sorrowful, the crown of glory for the victors, the recompense of the blessed. One day I hope to receive your fullness and to sing the song of praise in my true home. Give me only on earth some few drops of consolation, and I will patiently wait your coming, that I may enter into the joy of my Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Okay, what we'll do now is that we'll have the students very orderly leave the auditorium. You can go back to your classrooms and pick up your possessions, and then quickly go to the gym for dismissal. Before you leave your pew area, make sure that you haven't left anything there or touched anything that doesn't belong to you. Okay, thank you once again, and let's very carefully and orderly head back.